So I am now 18 drafts deep on Underdog Fantasy Football, and I just want to go through the running backs that I just can't seem to stop drafting in fantasy football drafts right now. And obviously, we'll go through the reasons why I can't stop drafting these guys in fantasy football. But first thing I need you to do, go down there, drop a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support, because I'm doing everything I can to get us ready for the 2024 fantasy football season. So let's go ahead and discuss the first guy that literally, above all else, I cannot stop drafting. David Montgomery of the Detroit Lions. I've got him on 61.1% of my teams, which is 11 out of the 18 teams that I have drafted in so far. With David Montgomery, I mean, there's really a lot of reasons why I just can't stop drafting David Montgomery. Number one, let's go look at his landing spot on Underdog right now. Where he is being drafted on Underdog is basically around the 7th round of Underdog drafts. Now, if you're not familiar with an Underdog draft, it is going to be a 12-team league, and it's actually 3 wide receiver format. So that means the value of running backs just naturally goes down a little bit because you're having to draft your running backs. You're having to draft your wide receivers so much earlier than your running backs here. So you're getting David Montgomery at the 74 overall in ADP. He's going around guys like Joe Burrow, Brian Thomas Jr., Evan Ingram, Chris Godwin. But the other running backs in his range right here are Aaron Jones, who's been often injured over the last several seasons, now on a new team, fully guaranteed contract with Minnesota, but I don't believe that he can stay healthy for a full season and provide me upside for the long run. And then Ramondre Stevenson is someone that I already have said this year, I don't think he's going to be a good fantasy player because I think the New England Patriots will suck, and there's history linking bad running backs to bad NFL teams in fantasy football. So David Montgomery here is the guy who sticks out to me like a sore thumb. He's on one of the best teams in football now with the Detroit Lions, running behind a top 3 offensive line according to Pro Football Network for 2024 in Detroit's offensive line. And obviously, the offensive coordinator who is making it all happen and making it possible for both Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery to have great fantasy upside is still there with Ben Johnson. So Dave Montgomery, to me, just based on where he's going in drafts, that's the main reason I'm taking him. I've got him ranked as my running back 15 right now in 2024 fantasy football, so it's just a steal. And the other reason that I'm drafting David Montgomery is because I believe that there's really not much of a chance that his production will drop when it comes to his touchdown totals here. Now, keep in mind, if you're drafting on Underdog, you're wanting to go for pure upside because Underdog is the place where you can get payouts as big as millions of dollars here. So you want to go for pure upside here. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs, I will argue, definitely has the most upside out of the Detroit backfield. But in this range, I could guarantee you it's David Montgomery. David Montgomery, when you look at the Detroit Lions running backs under Brian Johnson, the past 2 seasons now, their running backs, one of them, has scored over 10 touchdowns on the ground. Jamal Williams did it in 2022, and David Montgomery did it in 2023. Now, the way that you know it will continue to work is because Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, likes to have a pass-catching back and a run-dominant running back. So that's why you don't see David Montgomery getting many opportunities when it comes to targets. He's their lead rusher. That doesn't mean Jahmyr Gibbs won't get rushing opportunities. He will, believe me. But he's also a massive threat through the air. So David Montgomery is going to handle all of the red zone work. And that's the reason why that one of these running backs is always going to get big touchdown totals on the ground. So literally there's like no holes that you could poke in Dave Montgomery. And I've drafted him a lot. I'm probably going to just continue to draft him more and more and more as I go down the list. Now, dropping down to my next guy here, I am going to say that Bijan Robinson is someone that I probably will continue to draft as well. And I've drafted him in exactly 33% of my teams. 6 out of the 18 teams. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? 18 drafts is still young. I'm probably going to draft close to 100 teams in Underdog this year. And Bijan Robinson is going to be a guy I'll draft a lot. Now, Bijan Robinson is in his own tier when it comes to where he goes in fantasy football drafts on Underdog. He's a first-round guy, top 5 pick type of guy, basically, going 7th overall, and it's the running back 2 off the board. And a lot of times, like what you'll see is that people will draft Bijan inside the top 5 because they'll draft him over guys like Justin Jefferson, who has quarterback uncertainty right now. Sometimes he'll be drafted above Amon-Ra St. Brown. And listen, I don't disagree. Basically, the way I've been drafting, for the most part, if CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, and Jamar Chase are off the board, I'm drafting Bijan Robinson if I had the opportunity to. Bijan Robinson, I think, is on the verge of elite. With Bijan Robinson, I've discussed this on my rankings videos this offseason. I think the reason why, and I think most people accept this, is the reason he's going as a running back too. The reason why he wasn't as great in 2023 as he should have been is because Arthur Smith was there trying to implement a 2 running back system. He had no business doing that, obviously, because Bijan can and will, by the way, handle a 3-down workload, and he was trying to get Tyler Algier touches. It doesn't really work that way when you've got a Bijan Robinson in the backfield waiting to be unleashed. So Bijan Robinson was not bad in his rookie season, but it was definitely a hindered season when it comes to the potential he has in fantasy football. Now, I'm going to continue to draft Bijan Robinson because I do believe that this year he will be the guy. Raheem Morris, the new head coach, has already said publicly this offseason, it's a very simple equation on offense. Throw to Drake London and run with Bijan freaking Robinson. Very simple equation. So Bijan Robinson, I don't doubt that he's getting 25 to 30 opportunities per game this year. I think that's coming from Bijan Robinson. And I think if what you saw last year with the efficiency that he had and the upside that we know he has as a prospect and a player, I don't think there's any question this guy could be in line for 18 to 20 fantasy points per game in 2024 fantasy football. So I'm going to continue to draft Bijan Robinson, and I haven't been able to stop. Now, the next guy that I've been drafting a ton of as well, and I really, most drafts that I've done recently, I keep taking this guy. So his numbers are actually improving and increasing as time goes because I can't get enough of Gus Edwards right now. With Gus Edwards before the NFL draft, I was a little reluctant to draft him because of the uncertainty. I thought they might get Blake Corum. I thought they might get someone like Jonathan Brooks. Well, they didn't do any of that. They grabbed Kamani Vidal in later rounds, who I think actually is a low-key pretty good play in best ball leagues. But I'm definitely preferring Gus Edwards in this backfield. Look, let's address the reasons why. Gus Edwards, again, compared to the other 2 guys we went through, he's in his own tier as far as where he's going in underdog drafts right now. Gus Edwards is the running back 36 off the board. It is going right at the 117 ADP. So Gus Edwards is basically just in his own little island with other running backs like Chase Brown in the range, Devin Singletary in the same range, Tyjae Spears relatively not far behind him, Trevor Lawrence, Adonai Mitchell, Rashid Shaheed going around Gus Edwards right here. Now, the reason I like, and to be clear, I actually like some of the running backs in this range. I actually like Devin Singletary. I don't hate Nick Chubb. I don't hate Brian Robinson. I don't hate Tyjae Spears. I think Gus Edwards is the preferred move for me here because of this. Look, the Los Angeles Chargers, I have not been shy about this offseason. I've discussed it quite a bit. When you factor in the Jim Harbaugh effect, Jim Harbaugh, if you look at the history of the way he has run organizations that he has been at, dating back to Stanford in the 2000s, he is a run-first guy. This guy wants to establish the run and work the pass off of the run. He's always had strong running back play. And you know what he's going to do. He's going to come in here and he's going to try to make Justin Herbert more efficient with less volume. Because Justin Herbert has thrown the ball more than most quarterbacks have over the past 5 years. So Justin Herbert, there's no question he could throw, but you know that he's not trying to have him throw all day because he got rid of 2 of his best receivers, his 2 best receivers, and he didn't really draft anybody. And he had the opportunity to get Malik Neighbors. Instead, he decided to bolster the offensive line with Joe Alt. So you know that he's going to go run first. Now, I'm not saying that there's not going to be a committee, right? They have J.K. Dobbins, they have Kamani Vidal. There could be a committee here. But there's no question to me, based on contracts, if you look at those contracts right there, Gus Edwards has the most guaranteed money. He's got the most money allowed in his contract. And he has a brother, John Harbaugh, who probably told him how much he likes Gus Edwards from his time in Baltimore. So I have a very strong confidence that Gus Edwards will be a guy that I'm going to continue to draft in underdog drafts. And I'll probably say I'll draft Kamani Vidal as well. I've actually tried to target these guys both in the same league a couple times. And I'll probably continue to do that because I do believe that out of the three, they're the most likely to get real volume. And I think that J.K. Dobbins is probably the guy who's the odd man out in this offense. But I'm going to continue to draft Gus Edwards here. Now, the next two guys are basically in the same range, and I've really been kind of flip-flopping back and forth on which one I take in each particular draft. Tony Pollard and Trey Benson. I've drafted both of the guys 5 out of the 18 teams. So 27.8% of the time, I've drafted these guys. So really, they're both in the same range as far as their landing spot and what it costs to take these players are. Tony Pollard's a little bit higher priced. He's the running back 26 with a 92 ADP. And then you look at Trey Benson, he's the running back 30 with a 102 ADP. They're basically within, 10 to 11 picks of each other though. Now, with Tony Pollard here in specific, I think that Tony Pollard is going to be a guy that I continue to take because I have said this offseason, and I want to make it very clear today. I think the Tennessee Titans are a major sleeper offense for fantasy football success this year. I think that Tony Pollard with Tennessee is going to be better than he was with Dallas last year because of Tyjae Spears. I think Tyjae Spears will take pressure off of him, and I think that's going to be better for Tony Pollard's overall efficiency. Look at what the Tennessee Titans have done offensively this year. Not only did they move off of Mike Vrabel, who I like, but was a no-question defensive coach, they moved off of him in favor of an offensive head coach. And they're trying to make Will Levis successful by getting him Calvin Ridley. They got Calvin Ridley. They got Tyler Boyd. Not a major signing, but it still means something. Their offensive line was the first pick of their NFL draft. So they're trying to improve this offense piece by piece. They're getting explosive guys. They're getting big names on the market. So I really do think that Tony Pollard is not in the worst landing spot here. And I actually don't think that he's going to have to shoulder the workload he shouldered last year for Dallas because Tyjae Spears is better than Rico Dowdle is. And I believe Tony Pollard will actually be better with a running back with Tyjae Spears on the other side of him. And then with Trey Benson right here, look, I have not drafted much of James Conner. I'm not opposed to it. I just haven't really done it. I've done it in like 2 leagues. The reason I prefer Trey Benson over James Conner, because in a best ball format, I want to take the highest upside player. Trey Benson, I think, is the highest upside player. I did a video that was explaining the upside with running quarterbacks when it comes to running backs in fantasy football. And in that video, I proved that with Kyler Murray, when he's running the ball, when he's running the offense, running backs score lots of touchdowns with him. Kenyon Drake scored a lot of touchdowns with him. James Conner has scored a lot of touchdowns with Kyler Murray as his quarterback. I think if Trey Benson gets opportunities, he could be a massive surprise in fantasy. And I'm not saying that he's going to start over James Conner. I think James Conner will start. But when it comes to the upside of the player, I think Trey Benson has plenty of it. The guy is almost 220 pounds. He's over 6 feet tall. Hits the size benchmarks we look for when we're looking at players who have the potential to be 3-down backs. He also has a receiving profile. Not much, but it definitely has room for improvement. He's also super athletic. Sub 4 40-yard dash time. And if you look at the history, top 12 running backs, most of them are running sub 4 40 times or sub 4 40 times. So Trey Benson hits a lot of the physical measurables we want, and he's got a running quarterback to make it easier on him and take the pressure off him because you can't stack the box with a running quarterback here. So I don't have a problem with drafting James Conner, but I've just drafted more of Trey Benson because I see the upside more. Now, let me know what you think of these guys in the comments below and what running backs you have been drafting a lot in underdog fantasy football drafts.